Hey there, it's Brent Webb. Welcome back to an all new episode of Life 101. All the things you should have learned in school, you just never, ever did. And I want to thank you for joining me today. Today, we have a pretty interesting topic we're going to discuss. All right. We're going to talk about what do you really want? Now, this is a deep topic. And as many of you know, I'm a big fan of Michael Singer and his spiritual teaching. He explains things so perfectly. So we're going to talk about him a little bit in this too. But it's a deep topic because a lot of people right now, they're talking about spiritual wisdom. They're talking about the law of attraction, attracting to themselves, all sorts of things. But the question here is from a spiritual point of view. What do you really want? And religion is about what you're supposed to want. And we know how that works. Spirituality is not that. It's about looking deep inside and seeking truth and clarity. So what we're going to talk about has nothing to do with my feelings of what you should want, or if you're feeling guilty about not wanting something. That doesn't matter. The question is, what do you really want? And the way to do it, I'm going to make this easy for you. All right. Imagine you have a piece of paper. Now, not really, but just in your mind. And I want you to start writing down all the things that you want. Now, take a little time. Don't really do it, but in your mind, write down the things you want. And if you're like most people, maybe first on the list is a good relationship, someone that makes me feel important, needed, loved, all of that kind of stuff. So whether you're in a relationship, maybe you'd like it to get better. Maybe someone should behave in a different way or understand me better, whatever. Okay? Someone who fits perfectly with me. All right? And then if we're going to be honest, we're going to write down maybe a big house and a Porsche, or at least some sort of car, maybe children, or maybe more time with the children that you have. Now listen, you make that list because it's yours. Nobody else is judging it. Just be honest. All right? Yeah, the purpose here is that no matter what you're going to put on that list, I can almost guarantee you that when we break it down, it's not going to be what you really want. All right? So I'm going to prove it like this. I want you to imagine, say on the top of your list is a relationship. All right? So we're going to give you, I have the power to give you the relationship that you're asking for, but there's a caveat there, which you definitely want to hear first. Now, before I can give it to you, I'll give you the perfect person. They'll be loyal to you. They'll stay with you your entire life. But the caveat is that you will be completely unfulfilled. You're going to feel sad every time you come into the room with them. You'll not feel any love, any joy. They'll be there, though. They'll dote all over you. They'll just be the most perfect partner that you could possibly have. Or I'll give you that job that you thought would be the perfect job, but it's hollow. You go there, you thought it would turn you on, but it doesn't. You just hate going to work, and you're just not excited. And so therein lies, what do you really want? Because what you're going to find is, if you were given the opportunity to have a relationship with that person that I just told you about, or have a job that I just described, and it left you hollow inside, you would say, I don't want it. In fact, if it's going to make me miserable, I really don't want it, so keep it away from me. All right? Then I say, well, you lied to me because you said that's what you really wanted. But because it isn't true. You wanted a relationship. It isn't true that you wanted children. It isn't true you wanted money. It isn't true you wanted to travel around the world. What's true is that you wanted to feel good. You wanted to feel good inside. You wanted to feel loved. You wanted to feel joy. You wanted to feel inspiration and excitement. Well, those are inner things. Okay, those are inner things inside yourself. But what you listed were outer things. Because they thought, or you thought, they would give you what you really want. So in spirituality, it's always about going deeper, about going to the root. So the truth of the matter is the only thing you needed to write down on that piece of paper when someone asks you that question is a sense of total well-being. I want to feel love. I want to feel joy. I want to feel inspiration. I want to feel meaning. I want to feel depth. And you made the mistake of doing it indirectly. I want something outside that I think will make me feel on the inside. So without laboring the point to go deep, and to be really on a spiritual journey, you can't let yourself do that anymore. Because there are plenty of times you said, oh, if I only this happened, I would be fine. And it didn't turn out that way. And even if it did, it didn't stay that way. Like there's nothing else you ever wanted, right? Something else comes along. If something was bothering you, and if only that would go away, you'd be fine. That again is not the truth. So you come down to the point where eventually, to be totally honest with yourself, it may sound selfish, but in the end, it's not bad to say the truth. I want to be happy. I want to feel love. I want to feel joy. I want to feel inspired. If somebody presented that question to you, you just gave the greatest answer you could give. You gave the real answer. You're a winner with that answer. You can't lose with that answer. From the moment you wake up in the morning, you're excited by life. You're inspired. You can't wait to see what's going to happen for the rest of the day, and you embrace it totally. And then at night, you've given everything. You put your head down, you fall asleep, you wake up again, you do it. You're back, you're ready. It's another great day. It's a beautiful life. And that's what you're looking for. You just think you need all these things in order to get that. So now we're going to go on to the next step of what I really want. And the question that gets asked by a person who's deep is, okay, I feel that on the inside. That's really what I want. The outside is not what I'm about. It just seems that in the past, I've had the experience that the outside changes how I feel inside. And that's what a wise person starts to realize, that if certain people walk up to me and they say certain things at just the right time, in just the right way, it turns me on. If the same person walks up to me at the wrong time, says the wrong thing in the wrong way, it turns me off. So I now have taken on the task of manipulating and controlling everyone who walks up to me so that they say it right, what I want at the time, and they don't say what I don't want. And it just comes down to, I have this list of what I want and what I don't want, and most human beings, and most means almost all of them, 95% of them, have devoted their entire life to getting what they think they want and avoiding what they think they don't want. And the emphasis on the word think. It becomes much simpler when you realize what I want is to be okay. I want to feel loved. I want to feel joy. I want to feel happiness and inspiration. So now as you look at that next question, becomes, why don't you? Because your experience is, I can only feel those things if the outside comes in through my senses in a certain way. So the depth, when you start getting deep, when you start getting spiritual, when you go deeper, is to ask why. Why is it like that? Why is it that if I get what I want, it turns me on, and if I don't get what I want, it turns me off? And if I get what I don't want, it definitely turns me off. And if I don't get what I don't want, I feel relieved. We take that for granted. But a spiritual person doesn't take anything for granted. The only thing that really turns me on is when the outside world is exactly the way my inner state decided it wanted it to be. Look, we could talk about it. We could go really deep. But I'm going to create a situation. This is Michael Singer's situation here that he describes it so perfectly. All right? So imagine you just read in the newspaper that there was a 1942 penny that was minted in Denver, and it's worth $6 million. And the rumor is it's floating around in your neighborhood. Well, all of a sudden, when you go to the store and you get change, you're looking at your pennies. And you never looked at them before. They never did anything for you. Now you're excited about getting them. In fact, you ask the cashier, I want all my change in pennies, but it's 90 cents. That's all right, all pennies. Your whole mindset changed. Your whole relationship to life changed because you got into your mind the thought that I want to find a 1942 Denver Mint penny. And if all of a sudden you were given a penny and you look at it and it says 1942, all of this rush of energy and spirit rushes up inside of you. Excitement, enthusiasm. And then you see it's got a P for Philadelphia instead of a D. And all of this depression and letdown happens inside. You are doing that. Prior to you reading that article in the newspaper, there wasn't any penny anyone could give you that would do that to you. You are doing it to yourself. So you start to realize that when your mind has a preconceived notion that something will make it happy, you believe that penny would make you happy. So therefore, you're looking for it. You want it. You project it out into the world that I'm going to be okay if I find that penny. I'm going to be okay if I find the right relationship. I'm going to be okay if I find the right job, the right cash, the right on and on and on. You set up a condition that said if the world unfolds that way, I will be open to it. I will be receptive. I will be open. And in spirituality, we understand what that means. Open. My mind is open. It'll be receptive. My heart will be receptive. And it's because you're open that you feel this joy rush through. Pennies do not give you that. Objects do not give you that. It's the joy that you're feeling that gives you that turned on feeling. What turns you on turns someone else off. And what turns you on today turns you off yesterday. All you have to do is hear one more thing and your whole mindset changes. So it's not right to think that there's something out there that's going to make you happy. That's something you decided inside yourself, that you'll be open to it if it happens. And it's that opening that brings the joy and brings the love and brings the light. And that's an absolute truth. It's always like that. Likewise, we're closing. If you decide, I don't want to see a snake or any other thing such as a snake, and your whole life is in deep shit because you see a rope and you think it's a snake and you close down. Now, if the other hand, you don't have that issue and you see a rope and it's a rope, and if you happen for a moment to think it's a snake, no big deal. But if your mind has decided, I don't like snakes, I want to see a snake, I don't want to see a snake, you know what it's gonna do. You're conditioning your mind. That's what a mindset is, conditioning of the mind. That makes us sort things by what turns us on, turns us off, makes us happy, makes us unhappy. We're sorting this list inside our mind. You've got a list in there of what you want and what you don't want. It's not true that you want those things. What you want is something that will open you so that you can feel the joy that is natural when you're open. And you don't want the things that close you. They get you blocked off from that joy. And you get this sense of depression. So you can either spend your life deciding what you want and what you don't want and then chasing it outside, or you can sit there and work inside to realize all I really want is the joy and the love. And if I stay open, I can have those things. I don't need outside conditions to keep me open. So I make it a very important point, because in spirituality, it gets mixed up. Spirituality is not about giving up something, renunciation. So that means you've decided what will make you happy, but you're not going to do it. Well, that's crazy. Spirituality says it was stupid of me to decide what will make me happy. Instead of being happy with life, instead of being grateful and turned on by all the amazing things that are happening in front of me and all the past experiences I got to have, why don't I just enjoy all that? And then come into life filled with love, filled with joy, and give the whole of my being to the moments that are unfolding in front of me. That's what spirituality says. It's not about renunciation. It's not about things are wrong and things are right. It's about understanding that you did this. You did this with your mindset. You set up conditions in which your mind would be open and then your heart opens. I mean conditions in which your mind will close and your heart closes. So spirituality is very present inside you. You want to have a beautiful life, right? Spinning through space on a marble in the miracle of life. So just open your heart, open your mind. It doesn't need conditions to open. It's just you don't know how to do it. You become programmed. It's a habitual habit that you've had with your past experiences. I get this, I'm happy. I don't get this, I'm not happy. You're controlling that opening. How did you decide how your mind decided what it wanted, right? Your mind is making these decisions. They were programmed into you by your past experiences. All of them. So you had a past experience where something was nice with a certain person. They looked a certain way. They had a certain name. They drove a certain kind of car, whatever. And you really felt great with them, right? It was beautiful years and years and years ago. And now one of those things shows up. You meet somebody with that name. As shallow as that sounds, don't kid yourself. You meet somebody with the name of an ex that you still think about. Man. And what if it was a bad relationship? Now you meet somebody with the same name as your ex, and what do? You shut down. You close down. It's not though it's the same person you met. They just have the same name. Maybe you open up and when you see a car, you had a nice experience with this ex, and now when you see a blue Mustang, you get that feeling in your stomach. You are programmed by your past experiences. So if they were good experiences, they tend to open you when something reminds you of them. When they were negative experiences, they tend to close you. And this is where you get your list of what you want. That's why all of our lists are different. Everyone's list is totally different because nobody has the same life experiences. And because it's based on those experiences, it left these impressions in your mind. And you came up with the list of what you want. So when you make the list of what you want or don't want, you're really making a list of your past yes and no's. Even colors. Anything that you like, they're impressions. They say man is the sum of his learned experiences. Well, it's not exactly true. It's true that your mind and your heart or your personal heart are the sum of your learned experiences, but you are in there noticing this. So a big distinction that you're in there and you are noticing that your mind is the sum of your learned experiences. And it's that where psychology meets spirituality. It's right there. That's in the psyche of your thoughts and your thought patterns and your likes and your dislikes. Those are your problems. Some of your learned experiences. But you are in there. Your consciousness, the awareness of being who notices what I'm saying is true. So basically, you come to the point you have to decide, do I want to continue letting my past leave impressions on my mind and my heart such that only certain things will open and close me? And then I will spend my life chasing after, manipulating and controlling, conniving the world around me so that sometimes it unfolds the way I want? Or do you want to sit there and understand that you're the one who's making these decisions? It's your mind who's setting up the conditions. Why don't you just not do that? And that's where you get deep spiritual teaching, deep spiritual knowledge from inside, the deepest point. All you need, the great way is not difficult for those who have no preference. But that is not renunciation. It's not about getting rid of your preferences. It is about realizing that preferences limit your joy because you have to match them. And if you don't have all of these likes and dislikes and preferences and conditions and so on, you're going to find out that life is amazing. Even the challenges of life are amazing. What's wrong with challenges? We play sports. We like challenges. Nobody wants to play a team like that you beat 700-1 every time. You play them because you want to be challenged. You want to have them bring out the best in you. When you're not being run by all these past impressions, they're scars, they're wounds, these past impressions, which are telling you, and they're telling you consistently, you can only be happy if this happens, and you can never be happy if it doesn't. And you will never be happy if such and such happens. And then you go out into the world chasing this, as opposed to working inside on yourself to say, I don't need those conditions. Life is amazing. I'm sitting on a planet spinning in the middle of nowhere, and all these events are happening in front of me. I could stay here, but while you're here, do you want to run around and fight with life and people and places and things and even the weather to try to make it be what you think you want? Or do you want to work on yourself and clean up this mess inside so you can be open all the time? That's what it's really all about. It's too late if you've already decided that you want something, you need to be happy, but you're not going to do it. In spirituality, it's understanding you don't need anything. You don't need anything. You're a whole and complete person within yourself. If you open, there's tremendous joy, love, and inspiration that wells up inside you. The moment you open, the moment something happens, you feel joy. And if something happens, you know, like, watch out. Stand back. Closeness, being closed is just not what you want. Because what opening means, it's like pulling up the blinds. If you close the blinds in your house, the house is dark. You know? You have to run around with artificial light trying to figure out how to get some light. If you just open the blinds, you don't have to do anything. Light comes in. But you won't open the blinds until you're sure nobody's out there. And only the right people are in your house. And everything's exactly what you want it to be. And you're afraid to open the blinds. You don't feel comfortable. So you either decide to spend your life trying to build artificial light inside, or you decide to work on yourself. So you want to leave the blinds open. True spirituality is about taking off the blinds. Take them off the window. Throw them out. Never close them again. What is the purpose of closing? It makes you say, it makes you dark. It makes you feel depressed. Total darkness. Being closed off to the flow of energy. There's no reason for that. No excuse for that. This is your world inside. It's your mind. It's your heart. It's your responsibility not to close. I mean, who are you to think you're going to need somebody who will overcome your tendency to close with a job? Don't give me that job even under everything, right? All these impressions that bother you, scare you, and turn you on and off. If you say in a relationship, it's my responsibility to keep your mind open and your heart open when you're in there, closing it all the time, I hope that seems silly and counterproductive, because that's exactly what it is. It's your responsibility to keep your mind open. It's your responsibility to keep your heart open. No person, no job, nothing outside is going to do that. You have complete control. Once you learn to do that, you're going to feel joy all the time. And I mean, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, you'll be inspired all day long. You'll feel passion and contentment. If you're at the same job for 30 years, you'll never get bored, because just that energy flowing up inside you. You'll get the most out of your relationships. You'll be able to give the most. The moments unfolding in front of you, they're truly yours, because now you're a giver instead of a taker. When it comes into the mode of interaction with the moments in front of us, we're looking to see what we can get. We're looking to see how we want them to be. We're speaking to change things. We're dressing certain ways. We're doing all kinds of things to manipulate the moment so that they'll be the way we want. And then they come inside. They come inside. They work on us, ourselves. You realize you can be open all the time. You don't need to close. You can feel that joy, that love, and that inspiration. It starts to unfold inside of you. Spirituality is not about that's why. It's not about why. The questions are not out there. The questions are inside. The questions you need to ask yourself. Love and joy and all the things. Freedom. Freedom. Just the overwhelming feeling of contentment. Everyone talks about the law of attraction and abundance, and we talk about it too, and it is a real thing. People use mantras and spirituality to make sure that they, that they're getting from their life what they want. But it's not about so much attracting to yourself. Yes, so, people ask all the time, is there a law of attraction? Of course. And you better be scared of it, because you think about it. If you're attracted to what your mind is thinking, you better take a close look at your mind. But it's not only when you're sitting there trying to attract things, with affirmations. It's about what's going in your mind all day long. It's about complaining. It's about yelling at people. It's about not liking stuff. You're attracting to you. You'll eventually catch on that it's not about getting what you want. It's about learning to find out what you really want is to stay open and not have conditions on that openness. And then it comes down to how do you do that? Are people capable of doing that, or is it just reserved for, that very special being, that spiritual being? Anyone can do it. If I tell you I can pick up 5,000 pounds, you may not be able to do that. In fact, you won't be able to do that. But you read these stories where a mother or child is trapped under a car. She's able to lift the car up. The power of the moment, the power of belief. It can be done. Just remember, you are the one that is opening and closing your heart. You're the one that's opening and closing your mind. They are your thoughts. They're your feelings. Nobody else is in there. So you're doing this thing. You are doing these things to yourself. The way to stay open is not to close. You don't even need to learn how to stay open. Just don't close. Somebody says something to you that you don't like. Normally you'd close down, right? So where do I start? That's where you start. Maybe with someone saying something to you. Driving in the car, the person in front of you is driving slow. Those are the moments you can start practicing staying open. If you have that tendency, and most of us do, start working on it. Don't worry about opening. Just be worried about not closing. Because things are going to happen in your life, that naturally open you. A beautiful sunset, a bird singing, on your windowsill. There are going to be things. All your problems can be solved by learning not to close. Just start to work with yourself to not close. And this is how you get what you really want. This is really the core of deep spiritual teaching. It's feeling love and joy at all times. And if that's what it is, you can get that from within. Then you share it. Being a spiritual being means knowing what it means. You don't live off what's coming in from the outside. You live from the inside out. It's all these circumstances that we need to feed us by tuning into the energy within every word that leaves the mouth, right? Of the people around us and worried about what they're saying. We'll find out that if you don't close, you have access to all that life force energy all the time. And I mean all the time, no matter what's happening to you, no matter what happens to you in the outside world, you'll feel joy and peace on the inside. If somebody else gets the job you want, you don't get the raise you want, these things are not terrible things. These are things that would normally make you close. And when you close, you give up the meaning of your life. You give up the joy. You give up the beauty. You give up your love. Fall in love with somebody, that's a beautiful thing. It's wonderful. They do something. They slurp their soup. They leave the cap off the toothpaste, whatever. Pull the blankets off the bed at night. Some silly, stupid thing, and you'll close. Why would you trade love, which is so precious, for a stupid little thing like your mind not liking this little trait that somebody has? I'm encouraging you to look at it that way and say, I'm ruining my relationship and giving up love. I decided to not like what this person did, or deciding not to accept this or accept that. That's why at the core of spirituality, acceptance, surrender. What does it mean? I'm not going to let the outside world close me. I have the right to have a beautiful inside. Nobody has the right to take that away from me. This is my world. I live here. And that becomes your spiritual work. And so I thought many times, we've talked about, learning how not to close, because that's what matters, staying open. When you see your heart start to close, you'll see your mind start to complain. Remember the easy stuff, driving in traffic. The guy in front of you is driving too slow, Instead of arguing with the guy, you're doing a whole two-way conversation in your head. You're yelling and screaming and yelling in your mind. He's driving blissfully unaware that you're arguing with him. You're creating that problem. You are doing that. That is one of the easiest things to let go, because you're bothering yourself. You're closing yourself. It's very easy when you take that seat of self inside, take an overview of what's happening in front of you. Wow, you can start to see how much of that you're doing in life. We're making ourselves miserable. We're trying to twist and turn the world to fit into a very slender, narrow idea of how things should be that we've created in our mind. And if it isn't that way, we're not happy. You are making your life miserable. Guess what? Stop it. Don't worry about finding what you want. It's too limiting. Learn how to stay open in the face of whatever is happening. If it rains and you don't want it to rain, if it's too hot and you were looking for a cooler day, who cares? Why would you close about the weather? You have no control over the weather. It's a nice thing. It's good that it rains. Grass needs it, right? Honor, respect, and appreciate the experiences that are unfolding in front of you. They won't match your past experiences of what you wanted, didn't want. They're not supposed to, and they won't. The question is, you're capable of letting go of this mess, right? You've made it. You've created it inside. So whatever experience is fully in front of you keeps you open or causes you to open. If somebody's standing in front of you yelling at you and you don't even know who they are, it can be fun. You don't have to freak out. I'm standing on planet Earth and somebody's yelling at me, right? Don't close. Don't expect somebody else to protect you. So just don't close. Don't expect somebody else to open you after you've closed. This is your inner environment. You are responsible for it. Learn it. Practice. Practice like you'd practice the piano, or if you practice math or tennis. Start with the simple stuff, the simple things, traffic. Do that and you'll find that there's a beautiful river of joy that's flowing inside you all the time. And nothing can take it away except you. It's only by closing yourself and closing your mind and closing your heart, and you won't feel it. And eventually you realize that it's the true nectar of life, that inner flow of spirit, that flow of energy. It's the beauty of life. And if you have that, you can share it with others and become a blessing on this earth. But if you're willing to keep your personality closing and allow yourself to ruin your life by closing, it's not going to happen. Okay? So it takes some work on yourself. Nobody else can do it. You have the right to stay open every day. Work on it. It's not meditation. Every moment and second of your life, just focus on not closing. And I promise you that something very beautiful will well up inside of you and will eventually get so strong that it will pull you into it. And those in the great high states and the great high spiritual states, that's where they are, and you'll completely understand it. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you have not joined our Facebook group, you can do that right now. We are a like-minded community of people helping, supporting, and empowering each other. And in turn, we help, support, and empower ourselves. It's a never-ending cycle, and it's a fantastic group. This is how we make change, positive, lasting change with ourselves and with the world at large. This is a movement. So join us at facebook.com/groups/students of self-empowerment. It's facebook.com/groups/students of self-empowerment. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you got something from this teaching. And big thanks to Michael Singer, who is amazing. So definitely look up his work as well. Don't worry, be happy, and feel good. I'll see you tomorrow.